Please use headphones or good speakers for optimal auditory pleasure. Hello, everyone. This is Certified Life Coach Christina. Today, I am joined by Ling Yah Wong, and I'll let her introduce herself because I'm going to ask her what is the most important thing she has learned in her industry and why. Welcome, Ling Yah.
Hello, thank you for having me. So I am a Malaysian. I grew up in Malaysia and I basically practice as a lawyer. But on the side, I run this podcast that's called So This Is My Why. And essentially it's a podcast where I interview inspiring people from all over the world about their why and how they turn their whys into realities.
Sounds wonderful. So, this is my why. That's actually a very catchy name. How did you come up with it?
Honestly, it was such a long process. I went through so many iterations. One of it was, this is my why. Then I went to Instagram and I saw someone else already had it. So I was
Oh.
speaking with friends and I said, why don't you just tag on the word so? And I thought, yeah, why not? And it turns out on all the platforms, no one had this. So I just immediately secured one and went, okay, this is my thing.
That's an awesome story. That's so awesome. Okay, so are you a broadcaster? Is that why you started a podcast? Or could you tell me more about how this came about?
Yeah, so I'm not a broadcaster, I'm a lawyer. I only discovered the world of podcast a year ago. But what was interesting for me is that on my journey of discovering who I am, what I want to do, my why, I found that podcast was the way where I could really connect with those who were appearing on air, if you will, especially with the guests. I could hear their emotions, I could feel their journey as though I was with them and I learned together with them. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. My life has been transformed, even though I've only been listening to podcasts for half a year. And I figured, okay, it's such an important and powerful medium. I should look more into it. And of course, as I'm listening to all these guys and I'm listening mostly to business podcasts, then naturally they will always go, you need to start a podcast. You need to start a podcast. It's the big thing right now. You need to connect with your people. And I went, okay, I need to start my own podcast. I need to start it now. So that's how I got
Wow.
into it.
Wow, what an exciting journey. And wow, it's supply and demand. Like people were asking you start a podcast. That's great. All right. So in your podcast, you might or probably have some very interesting guests. Is there a particular favorite person, corporation, interviewee that you have? And could you tell us more?
So I'm afraid I'm going to be a bit annoying and give a non-committal answer, which a lot of people have given, which is there is no such thing as a favorite guest because every guest is interesting. I learn something new. And I'm going to go further and give you an example. For instance, like my most recent guest is called Cesar Kuriyama, and he's an American tech entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And what I learned from him was the fact that he just went along with his passions. When he was young, he was just really interested in animation, and he used this animation to get into an amazing art school called Pratt School. But while in Pratt, he discovered that, oh, I'm really interested in other things. And he just constantly explored and pushed his boundaries all the time to a point where he created an app that on the first day got 50,000 downloads.
Oh,
Is on
wow.
track to be the top most downloaded free app on the App Store this year. Actually did top the list for paid app in 2018, was even featured in John Favreau's movie Chef. And John Favreau is the guy who directed Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2. He also directed Mandalorian. So he's huge.
Yes.
And all these things came about because he just went on with his passion and he pushed. And I feel like a lot of these guests show that exact same thing. Like there's this other girl called Ashley.
Hmm.
Ashley Dean now. She's actually a first artist with the Royal Ballet at the UK. And Royal Ballet is one of the top ballet companies in the UK. And in order to get to that stage, she actually had to drop out of school when she was in her teenage years just for a chance to apply to get into ballet school. And so all these people are just really, really amazing. I have such different trajectories, but I think all of them have the same element, which is that they did find something that they were passionate or at least interested in, and they really put in a lot of work. And somewhere along the way, everything just fell into place.
Wow, that's amazing. I think it's fair to say you don't have a favorite. It's because you like it all.
Yeah, I do. I think because I can only do one episode a week, then that means I really have only around 52 new people I can speak to. So in order to drill down to who I speak to, I really identify not just those who are inspiring, but those who are inspiring and who excite me and who I really want to speak to and spend a lot of time researching on and talking to.
Cool. Okay. Is there a type of guest that you haven't yet had that you want to appear on your podcast? And could you tell us more? The who, the what, the why? Like an
That's
ideal or a dream podcast guest.
a dream podcast guest. Oh, that's very easy. Guy Raz. So Guy Raz is actually an NPR host. He runs How I Built This and is actually one of my most favorite podcasts. And it's the reason why I love podcasts so much. His episode with Christina is the first one I ever heard, and it stayed with me forever. So I would love to have him on because he's the kind of host that I would love to be. And I mean, even though he's such a huge star, when I hear him give his own interviews about himself, he's so humble and so relatable and just so brilliant at what he does. So yes, he would be one.
Cool. So good to know who your inspiration is. Let's play a thought experiment, Ling Yah, if you're open to it.
Okay.
So what would happen if, let's say, something occurred and podcasts didn't exist? What do you think you would be doing with your time?
I think I would still be exploring, but on a more physical realm, I think. I could do that because I have a number of friends who do very, very different things from me. So I would hang out with them. I would learn from them. I'll ask them to include me in their projects. Another thing I do is I also run a newsletter. So writing is the thing that I really, really love, not just speaking with people, but actually putting it into actual physical words. So I would spend a lot more time doing that.
Wow. It does really sound you are a broadcaster, so it was a fair question for me to ask in the beginning. I love how you're so open that you answered that question, and I hope you don't feel that I blindsided you. I kind of like to see the reaction of my guests when I ask them, oh, surprise question.
It's fun. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so how about another question, not a thought experiment, just a question. Writing newsletters, why? What?
So writing newsletters, it accompanies the podcast. So every week I send it out and I say, hey, there's this new episode that's out if you like check it out. But I also like to throw other things in. And the reason why I do that is because I normally listen to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of different things. And so it's all in my head, but I never actually put it down in writing. And I find that when I don't make my own notes, I forget them, or I vaguely remember, or I want to refer to that link and I don't have to link anymore. So for me, it's a way of me consolidating everything, putting into this one newsletter where I can go back and go, these are my favorite finds of the week. And then only go like, oh, this is my favorite app. It's my favorite person, inspiring person I found, an experiment I found, or something that's precious that I just found. And I found that every single week, there's always something new because there's always something that someone else has referred to or talked about that's huge in that week that I can also somehow relate to my guests. So it's just me putting down my words and how I found it so I can learn, but also for other people so I can connect with those who are listening to my podcast. Because with a podcast, it often feels like I'm talking into a void and I don't know who's listening, if anyone's listening. So hopefully if people do sign up, then they might respond. I'm always open to response and I can know them more and say, okay, what do you actually want to know more about? Who would you like me to feature? What kind of questions am I not answering that you would like me to ask?
Excellent. And you're very organized. I think it's amazing. It shows how much passion you have for your podcast. Where can people go to find out more information about So This Is My Why podcast?
So you can go to the website. It's sothisismywhy.com. It's the same thing on all the different social media handles. So this is my why. Just look for it on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn as well. Twitter, so this is my YP1. So it's slightly different.
Cool. Thank you. And grounding methods include breathwork, body scan, guided meditations, energy healing, sound baths. I offer one-on-one and small group coaching, masterminds, in-person, and live stream events.